Hi, I'm Reb Risty with Revolutionize Your Marketing, Your Business, Your Life. And we're here today with Scott Goodrich, who is an EOS implementer. And oh my gosh, if you haven't heard of EOS, you really need to listen because more and more small businesses are finding EOS and they're using it and leveraging it. And it's a great tool. And on the marketing side, it really helps us be better, our clients better prepared for what we need to do on the marketing side. But Scott, I'd like to introduce you. If you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah, sure, Reb, and thank you so much for having me. And I'm always happy to chat EOS and all things EOS. So I do appreciate this opportunity. Yeah, so I work as a professional EOS implementer, and basically that means it's a small business coach, but we just use the tools and techniques that are part of EOS. EOS is based on the book Traction. So if you're a small business owner or an entrepreneur, my guess is that somewhere along the line someone's mentioned to you, or you've read Traction. It's come across your desk at some point in time, and it really is a great guide to some of the key tools that you should consider as you're looking to build your business, whether you go all in on EOS or just grab some things that really resonate with you. I think it's something that will hit home with most business owners. My background prior to EOS was in operations primarily. I was the get stuff done guy for a lot of companies,
Love
and
it.
that
Love
tag
it.
kind of followed me around, right? But on that ops side, that was about execution and process and people management, and so I think my background there on the ops side helps me when I come and work with some small businesses, because I do come with an execution in mind and the discipline it takes to get things done. And um, small business owners, they've got big dreams, big visions, and so that execution side is the piece where I think EOS fits in nicely, and where I've tried to demonstrate that I have some history and some experience that I
Yeah,
can
no,
maybe
I
lend a
think
hand
that's
with.
really helpful. So EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System, it sounds kind of scary. Like I'm a small business owner and we're used to just doing the things the way we like to do it. Maybe can you
Sure.
explain a little bit
Yeah,
of like the parts of EOS and why they work together?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it can't be scary. I think one of the misnomers or misconceptions about it, first off, is the word system is in the title, right? So immediately you hear, well, this must be some more software I need to buy. And it actually has nothing to do with that. There are plenty of companies, and EOS itself offers tools in support of what we talk about as part of the EOS process and the components of it. But at the end of the day, it's about how you
Mhm.
run your business day to day, week to week, month to month. That is what is at the heart of EOS. And the first thing I think as a takeaway that you would hear anyone that spends time talking about EOS is that we try to bring three things to any organization that we work with. The one is clarity of vision. So making sure that you clearly know where you're going and how you're going to get there, right? So we help you map that out. Simple tools, but help you map that out. The second is gaining traction, right? Gaining traction in the business. This is about operating with discipline and accountability, and making sure you're doing the stuff you need to be doing. And the last one, which we don't spend a lot of time talking about, at least up front, but I think is one of the most critical ones, is really building team health. So as you expand your organization, is the team a really high functioning, cohesive team that likes working with one another? Right? But that vision, traction, and healthy would be the three
Mm.
uniques associated with EOS, right? And
Yep,
that's
the
one of the
three
marketing
uniques.
terms that I'm sure you talk about, Reb, and right. So the three uniques that we talk about for EOS are those three, and there's lots of operating systems out there, and there's lots of ways that you can run your business. But vision, traction, healthy make EOS unique in how we help small business owners and
Yeah, no,
entrepreneurs
I
run their
love it. The
business.
three uniques. It is the three uniques to EOS. If
Right.
if somebody's listening to this, I'm a small business owner. How do I know that EOS is
Mhm.
for me, or what is a common challenge that they're struggling with?
Yeah. So it does require discipline to understand and to put these things into practice. So the first step for anyone that's even considering EOS, I think, just to understand the demographics of our target client, right? So I know you like to talk marketing. We're talking marketing here, and so one of the things we help our clients out, so we do for ourselves, is what is the target market that we're going after? What is the right list of businesses? So answer these questions. We typically 80% of our business is companies of 10 to 250 employees. So it's that
Hmm.
small to mid-sized business. They're growth oriented in nature, right? So they're thinking about growing the business. They have a certain vulnerability that's there, right? They believe that changing is more important than the status quo. So they have that honesty to say what we're doing today is not going to get us to where we want to go. So that psychographic profile, along with the demographics of a 10 to 250 person privately held entrepreneurial company, those two things really do make up some of the keys for someone to consider it. So that's a first place. Like, does that any of that resonate with me? There are some implementations for smaller businesses, but typically you're at some scale of 10 plus employees. And then if you want to take it to another level, we could talk about it, but we actually do walk through with anyone who's interested a free 90-minute, here's what's going to happen if you implement EOS. And when we do that, we ask 3 questions of any potential business. And once again, any implementer does this. There's about 720 of us across the world that do this. So right, there's business coaches in your neck of the woods, or, folks will fly to you, but there's any one of us is going to offer up a 90-minute opportunity to walk through EOS and the model. But we're going to you have to answer 3 things. 1, is EOS right for me? So as they listen to this conversation and this presentation, is EOS right for me? 2, is the person that's in front of this room talking to me about this, are they right for me? Right. There has to be a match made, right? It's a matchmaking session, right? And then the last thing is, am I disciplined enough to do this?
That's a good point. And you're right. There's different phases. What would you say to a company that's not quite ready to work with an implementer like you? How do they get to working with you?
Sure. Yeah, and the beautiful thing about EOS is that the goal here is really to help entrepreneurs, and there are 10 times as many companies that actually follow the EOS journey themselves. We call them self-implementers than there are that work with a coach. So you're not alone if you decide to take this on. And there's some books that you can read and follow what's on there. There's actually a bunch of free tools available at eosworldwide.com. So you can grab those and download those and use those as well. So that's there. And then there's also a less expensive sort of paid subscription where you can actually get into a second level of tools through EOS Worldwide. So you can self-implement, reading the book and following, grab some tools off the internet, or if you really want to get into it, you hire a coach and they act as your personal EOS trainer and walk you through everything that's there. But I would just say this, Reb, I think there's something for everyone, right? So, as a coach, you're your own employee, right? As a consultant, that's a solopreneur thing. I run my practice on EOS, right? There's enough there for me to grab that I can utilize those tools to make sure that I am working with a clarity of vision. I know exactly how I'm going to stay and execute things, and I'm thinking about my business and anything that I want to bring into it in a healthy manner. So those things still apply. Even if
and I appreciate that. I use EOS. I'm actually just started implementing it kind of towards the last year, and it is helpful because as solopreneur, slowly growing, it's the structure that you just lack. And you're like, well, where do I begin? And EOS and Traction has been really helpful with that. As part of it, I also have clients that are on EOS. And so sometimes for some clients, I sit in that marketing seat for them. And so I've been through a few vision days and focus days. I would love to know from you, if you could talk to my audience, how does going kind of building out the marketing strategy, and it's a high level, through Vision Day, but I love the idea behind the process. Maybe how does that help your clients clarify on the marketing side, and what are maybe some good takeaways that you've learned as you've coached clients through Vision Day that would help marketers sitting in that seat?
Sure. Yeah, a couple things come to mind. So you mentioned Vision Day. So we have 2 sides of the coin here. We talk about vision, getting clear about where you're going and how you're going to get there, and then traction, how you can actually take the steps to make that happen. So we capture that all in a 2-page document. One of the EOS tools, it's called the VTO, Vision, Traction, Organizer.
Yep.
We want to keep things simple, right? So we don't build business plans for small companies. No one has the time to build out a 75-page business plan that you never reference throughout the course of the year. We want a dynamic, fluid plan. So we build it a 2-page VTO. We want you to answer for your business 8 questions, and those 8 questions comprise the VTO. So the first question is core values, the second is core focus, the third is 10-year target, so long-term planning, and the fourth is marketing strategy. Marketing strategy is critical because once you know your values, that's who you are at your core. Once you know your core focus, why the heck are you in business and what's that about? You know where you're going over 10 years. Now you got to figure out who are you going to sell to enable that. Well, that's the marketing strategy. And so it is one of the questions that we work with our clients to answer on that VTO. And this document is then something that can be referenced every quarter. So it's alive. It's not a business plan on a shelf that you look at the end of the year and said, oh crap, we didn't hit 3 of our 7 goals because we just laid these out there and never went back to it. So within that, there are some components to that marketing strategy, but it is so critical because it's actually helping you figure out who do I need to go after to enable all this stuff I want to do, and getting clarity around it. And the 4 categories that we talk about is really figure out who that audience is. What is the list of people you're going after? What is that target client? So how do I get after there? What are the uniques to my business? So how am I different than my competitors in that same space? I mentioned the 3 uniques for EOS. We help you define yours. And then we do 2 things that are optional, but a lot of companies follow. Is one is a proven process. So how are you going to work with a client from the time that they're a prospect to the time they actually are a trusted client that you've got this long relationship with? So what is that process that you're going to work with them? And then the final piece is, do you want to offer, is there a guarantee for your services so that you can make this pledge or promise to clients to help them maybe get over the line and feel good about getting into business with you? So those 4 parts, that target list, right? That proven process, that 3 uniques, and then that guarantee, those are the core of the strategy that we lay out on that organizer. So yes, Reb, high level, and you're the expert here. So we're just trying to get folks thinking about those things. There's a lot to those 4 pieces, but that I think is where that marketing seat takes ownership of that element.
No, I really appreciate it as the person sitting in the marketing seat. Is usually marketing isn't, I mean, it's always part of the strategy, but I feel like what EOS and the VTO has done is made it important and just weigh as much as all the other pieces. And I like that it is simplified. Of course, then when you go away from the table, you dig into those components. I find my clients have the biggest challenge with the guarantee. What have you found that works to get them to develop that or come to a consensus on that?
Yeah, it's tough because that's why we leave it optional, because there are some products or services where that just doesn't make sense. So I guess the best way to do is I'll use 2 examples that I'm very near and dear. Within EOS, we all offer a guarantee, which is as we spend a day working with you and you don't take any value away from the meeting time, you actually don't have to pay for the coaching day. Right. That is the EOS guarantee. So very simple. We're going to deliver value and we're going to hold ourselves accountable to a high level of performance. So so we believe that have that. The business that I own with my wife is a haircut and color services business, right? So retail business. So I'm a bald guy with a haircut shop.
Makes total sense.
It's not even a client, right? We cannot offer a guarantee because once the service is performed, there's no way to give those dollars back. So, but our guarantee in that one is a little bit different. We say, we're going to guarantee that you're going to like your haircut, or you can come back with the next 7 days and we'll fix it. Right. So we can't refund dollars on that because services have been performed and there's no way to do that. But we have this other way that we can guarantee so that every client leaves happy. So it's just a way to ensure that you're putting a high quality product service out there in front. So you can say, look, full money back guarantee, we're going to stand behind it, right? Now, obviously that comes with its own risks. Or you can say, hey, look, we're going to make it right. So we're going to be there to make it right. And that's, how we do that.
I like that. I do. And, and it's also best practices. I'm part of a group called Story Brand. We talk about the process. It's key to all messaging. Guarantee is a great marketing tool to move people along the funnel. Another one that we use is the one-page marketing plan. So what I love is again, it's about simplifying and being able to be strategic at that level. And then you dig in later on. Maybe as we're getting...
Reb, I got a question for you. Can I ask you a question actually about this marketing?
All right. Yes, you can.
Yeah. Let's turn it. Yeah. So one of the things that there's a story outlined in Traction, but I talk to clients about all the time. I'm sure you do as well, is beware of the bright, shiny object. And so one of the things we're also trying to work with our clients is to make sure that the main thing is the main thing, right? And that there's not a chasing of that bright, shiny object. Have you encountered that where you've actually sitting in that marketing seat and a client says, well, you guys do X so well, can you just do Y for me, right? But Y is not core. It's not what we're in business for, but you want to keep that client happy. And there's danger in going and doing Y instead of just staying focused on X. So do you run into that with clients where that bright, shiny object syndrome strikes them and you got to kind of fend it off or walk them through
Yes.
that?
Yes. You know the answer to this. Yes, because we all have that problem. And what I love about the story brand methodology is when I do come in and we start talking about strategy and messaging, you start with the client problem, right? And so if we can focus there and it's not about the client services or the products they're producing, it's like, what is that core problem? Or, what's that key problem that your client's facing? And then I just keep redirecting them there. Yes, you could do that, but that's not solving this problem. It's not solving this problem. So it is the curse of the entrepreneur. We're mostly visionaries. We love the ideas and we live up here, but having methodology like EOS that keeps it simple. The rocks are the best, right? No more than 3. Don't get crazy with it. We do the same. Every strategy I put together, no more than 3 core strategies for the year. And then that can be, you have your rocks underneath that, but let's keep it simple. We can only do so many things. And then I throw out, unless you want to give me a multi-million-dollar budget, then I'll do all the things for you.
Get all that, man. Spend all your money on marketing. Yeah, the niche, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, the niching down, right, is really. I love that you said that because it's. You can get caught in this trap. Anyone can get caught in this trap. Well, I should expand the services that I'm offering. I have this person in my physical location or another in my ecosystem, right? I can expand that service beyond there. But as that niche grows and it's not an area that you're spending time on, it can actually do damage to what is your core focus. So the more that you can niche down, you can find there's a lot of value in going deeper within that target market that you're trying to develop, as opposed to going wider and trying to be all things to all people. That typically does not work out. It seems to work for Amazon and Costco. They try to be all things, all people. They're at a different level than the folks.
Yes and no, right? I mean, if you think about Amazon, they're really an e-commerce platform, and they let everybody else do all the work, right? So, and that's partly what. Even with REBL, I started as the outsourced marketing team and really started niching down to focus on strategy, branding, and messaging, which is where I find always every client needs to start there. And we just hone in on that. And then I bring in partners as needed. And it's really, it's not easy. It is not easy, but
and finding finding that thing that works and staying with it, right, and getting really good at it. So I can just speak personally, guilty as charged. When you open up a new business like we did 7 years ago, we tried everything and most of it didn't work, right? And we took ideas and suggestions, but we had to go through a bunch of stuff to realize, okay, learning, got all that stuff, that's up there. Here's the thing that's going to work, and this is where we're going to spend a time in our own marketing area. We really figured out this is how we're going to serve the community through our location, which is going to be different. So we actually have those uniques. We actually have a target market that we're trying to serve, and we're not going to vary. We're not going to try to be all things to anyone that wants to do something creative. We're going to actually do just this. And do these things.
No, and that's a good point. And that's the great thing about a system like EOS or StoryBrand. Even my coach tells me let's focus on at least 90 days, commit. 90 days, 180 days, whatever it is, and don't veer off the path and learn. And that it is a journey. It is, because you will learn and you iterate and you adjust and you move on. But if you try to keep doing everything, you just flounder, and ultimately you can't grow that way. You could have some success, but you can't grow.
Yeah. Good comment on the 90 days as well. We just have found that really the human mind can only handle something for about 90 days, and then it needs a break. And so you mentioned rocks, and that's really, I think, critical to the proven process for EOS, is that it is about every 90 days where you're taking a breath to just see what happened, what just happened these last 90 days, and what's going to happen the next 90, right? But you're going through that. It helps keep the business plan alive, and it helps keep the most important things. I would just say the prioritization that those that are running on EOS, the prioritization of doing the most important thing, because there's limited time within an entrepreneur and in a small company, right? And when you're in that organization, you don't have a ton of resources and you don't have a ton of time. So the prioritization that we try to do for our clients, not only weekly, but also over those 90 days, and then say, okay, we just had those 90. Were those the right priorities? Right? We tried through them. As you said, you stuck with them for 90. Is that the right priority? Okay, no, we need to adjust here. Well, that's good. We actually have a cadence in which we can adjust them. And that 90 days just seems to fit well with sort of the cadence and rhythm of the individual as well as the business. It just is that living in that every 90 days, it helps you stay disciplined as well. Right. And so that's how that kind of all builds up into what we call that EOS system.
No, and it makes sense. And we do the same with our marketing strategies. We do 90-day stretches, right? So we commit, we're going to run a campaign for 90 days, and then we evaluate, look at the numbers. One thing I wanted to say, because I'm also now living in the EOS world a little bit, when you say rocks, maybe explain to the audience, what is a rock? And how do you use that?
Yeah. So this is a term that's been out there for a while. So this is not an EOS specific term. I think it's actually Vern Harnish is probably the guy that started this. And if you pop on YouTube and there's some good videos, but basically you can kind of define the things that are going to come at you in your business in terms of rocks, smaller rocks, pebbles, and the grains of sand, water, right? And if you look at an experiment, if let's just say on the one extreme, water is all of the day-to-day stuff that has to happen all the time and all the noise that comes at you while you're running a business, and rocks are the most important things that are really going to move the needle. Well, if you start filling up your bucket and you start with water and you fill the bucket up to the top with water, all of the sort of the smaller minutia of running a business, the minute you start to add in a little bit of sand and then a few pebbles, right? Maybe the little more important things, your bucket overflows. You've run out of time, right? There's a limitation to what you can do as represented by the bucket of water. But if you put the rocks in first, the most important things, then you can add a few pebbles, and then you can add some sand, and then you can still have some room for water. So you've got to start with the big things first. And that's why we call them rocks. It comes off of just that little science experiment, if you will, where rocks first allow for more to fit in the bucket than if you start with.
No, that's great. And I love that visual. And I think it's helpful. I know I've started using the term rocks, and people are like, whoa, what's a rock? What? Why are we calling them rocks?
They're just the most important things for the next 90 days, right? Some people can use interspersed goals and other things, but it's a handy term to have there and look at that. And I think all too often, because entrepreneurs have 136 things coming at them at any one time, how do you make sure that you're working on the most important things all the time? Well, that's what EOS is designed to do. Find a place for all the things that are coming at you and make sure that they get worked in the right manner, in the right order, right? So that's where that prioritization. And I think the beautiful thing for EOS is that all of the issues are just issues, and they find a home in one of the tools that we utilize. And it can actually take some of the stress out of the entrepreneur's brain, where he or she feels like they're running all different directions, right? And that's to me where you can find it. And that's where it would even apply to someone that's just one or two people in an organization, and that the company's just growing, or they're only going to be that. You can actually find a way to really organize that. So I'm just right now setting my rocks for what are the most important things that I want to get done for the first quarter of the year, right? And so I can do that for myself, and then I go back to that and say, okay, well, you're not doing that. Why are you not spending time on that? You already said that's the most important thing for this quarter. You're over here doing this minutia. The minutia is not moving the needle. The rocks are going to move the needle.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think with the clients that I've worked with that are on EOS, and as they're implementing the rocks and things, it helps me also stay focused and keep them focused. Be like, well, that's not our rock this quarter. What's our rocks this quarter? And it's just a very clear, agreed upon destination. And so it's really been helpful, I know, for my team and what we're doing.
Yeah. And that's why we ask if you're going to be disciplined and you go through this process, right? Because if you set the rocks and then don't look at them, right? So you don't use the other tools, which we actually have you look at the rocks every week. Once again, trying to build that discipline, accountability. But if you are not going to do that and don't have the discipline to look at them weekly and stay on them, then you're exactly right. What's going to happen is the flavor of the day or week is going to pop in. That's going to become the top item. That'll be the thing. And then all of the stuff that you said was really important goes away. And then you end the quarter, like, well, what just happened? We didn't get anything done this quarter. I'm like, well, yes, because you let other things come in over top of what you determined was really going to move the business forward. So there is danger. So if that discipline's not there to follow, then you can get off track. So there's still some ownership on that, right? You can put in
Yeah.
EOS or any other
It's
system,
true. It's true. Pick
and
one and stick with
that
it. I think
discipline's
that's
going
in
to
the
get
book
it.
too. It's like pick one.
That's right. 100%. Pick a system. I like EOS. It's what I'm comfortable with. It's what I'm using with my clients. There are many others out there. They all have their pluses and minuses. You just got to find the one that sits with you and works with you. As you mentioned, I do think EOS is just growing because it is the proven process that's been laid out. It works every time it's tried. It's when it doesn't work is when folks do fall off and they just lack the follow through that's required on there. But I think there's enough sort of testimonials and stories out there that you can say like, oh, you stick with this. It's a journey, but within 18 months, 24 months, you're gonna be like, oh wow, I got a different business than I had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a short time ago.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. As we wrap it up, any last words of advice for small businesses? As we're at, oh my gosh, the end of January in 2024.
I know, crazy. Yeah, I mean, first off, and it sounds silly, but if you haven't done any planning for this year, you can actually go grab a VTO and you can just noodle it yourself and go through there and start to answer questions like those. Those are there, and I'm happy to provide anyone that's interested with a blank copy of the VTO, give you a brief explanation of it, but just say, hey, here's a quick planning document. So be intentional. Right. So EOS is helping you be intentional. Other business systems are helping you be intentional. It's really important. So if you haven't done that, that's a good thing to start. We are at the beginning of the year here. Take the time to do that, and then figure out what are you going to do in the next 90 days that's going to get you a little closer to what you just said you wanted to do this year. Like those two things in and of itself can get you on the right track and make sure that your energy is being focused in the right direction and not kind of.
I think that's great. And it's true. If you haven't started planning, this is a great way to start. It's easy. It's 2 pages. And then you have an offer to go with that as well, right, Scott?
Sure. Yeah. So I mentioned there's a couple free tools that are out there. I'm happy to send those in, but also anyone that is actually really interested in learning more and likes to read, get you a copy of the book Traction. There's a couple of companion books that go with it. Traction really lays out EOS and the 6 components that make up EOS and how you can see how the tools will work in your business. There's actually also a fable that goes along with it called Get a Grip. And Get a Grip is just how a company, actually a mythical company, uses EOS in their business and how it makes a difference for them. It's kind of written in that Lencioni style. For those that are familiar with that, Lencioni tells the fable first, then teaches the lessons later. So if you've ever read a Lencioni book, he does it. Get a Grip is kind of in that same vein where Traction is a little more academic. It's like, hey, this is how this works. Here's how companies have used it. Both will give you a really good sense of that. But I have a free copy of the book Traction. For anyone that's interested, they can go on the EOS Worldwide website and get my name.
Well, we will definitely put your contact info in the show notes so that people can reach out to you if they want to learn more. And if you haven't started your planning for 2024, it's okay. Don't worry. We got you. At REBL, we focus on strategy first. So we would love to help you work on your marketing and revolutionize what you're doing. And we'll have all the info in the show notes to reach out. But thank you so much, Scott. I think this was it's really helpful. Just getting back to the basics, keeping it simple. EOS is such a great system. I know it works, and I'm sure your clients are very happy that they're working with you as well.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that, right? Simple, not necessarily easy, but simple, right? Easy to understand. Then you got to really dig into it and say, okay, how's this going to work for me? But yes, I appreciate the time. Reb, it's always great to talk to you, and thanks for having me on. And
you bet.
Love talking about this stuff. So,
Thanks, Scott.
I appreciate the opportunity.